Hello and welcome to another episode of They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir. I'm Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And this week there's been some drama in all sporting events, so let's get stuck in.
How's your week been, mate?
It's not been too bad, actually. I often start by saying it's not been too bad, but
Yeah.
there's been a lot of sport happening this week. A lot of sport.
There has been a bit, and being involved in a tournament myself from a coaching capacity over the weekend as well. So I'm very much feeling that today.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, how's your week been? Because I know it's been, or your weekend at least, it's been a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, I'm okay. Bit of a roller coaster weekend, if I'm being perfectly honest, and very much feeling the effects of that today. But yeah, I don't really know where to go from that. It's been a tough couple of days. I think it's been a tough couple of days.
So for people listening at home, we've spoken about it quite a few times over the last couple of weeks in preparation for the you're a coach for the New South Wales flag national women's the New South Wales women's flag team who competed this weekend in the National Flag Championship against all other states in Australia. I came along and watched on the Sunday, which was a well-run event. I think that's one of the biggest bits of credit that I've got to give. It was really smoothly run. The times of things that are happening, and it was split over 2 days, which I thought was quite good as well. I think it would have been better if it was Saturday and Sunday, but it was Sunday and Monday. But how did day one go? Let's talk about each of the days. Okay. Let's talk about the Sunday and then the Monday. How did day one go for you?
Really well. Went the whole day unbeaten, which is pretty cool. Had won 4 out of 4 games. Started the tournament off against Victoria. Got a defensive shutout, which was really happy. I did promise the girls every time they got a donut, so a 0, and we didn't concede, I'll buy them donuts. So luckily my bank balance didn't take too much of a hit.
Because it's quite hard to keep them scoreless in flag.
In flag it is. I think in the first game they only got over halfway once as well.
Yeah.
Which again is incredibly impressive, and got to take my hats off to the players in that side of things. But I was a bit worried from that side of things. And then went on to beat WA in the next game, and then followed by, I think, my mind is
South Australia. Was it the team in red that you played on that day?
No, we played them. No, or did we? No, ACT. It was ACT, and then we played Queensland in the last game in the late afternoon kickoff, and we beat Queensland, which it was a great feeling for a lot of the girls that were in their team, because they've been a little bit of a thorn in the side of New South Wales, always sort of pipping them in the national champs. So that was a great thing. But yeah, so what did you think of the day one, I suppose?
So I spent a lot of the time walking around the Oval because it was based out Bankstown International Sports Park, and was it Blacktown? Bankstown? Blacktown International Sports Park, and it was a good setup. The Oval around the outside, you could walk around and watch all 4 fields. So there was games every hour. There was games at 9, 10, 11, switching between male and female. So the sporting side of things, it was non-stop the whole day. So I was actually watching a few of the different teams play because I had interest of mates that are playing in the New South Wales men's team. Obviously the Tasmanian team, there was a few people that I knew playing in those as well. And I thought it was a really good day from the New South Wales women's team. I sat down and watched the first half, I think, of the game against Western Australia, and I think you put 60 on them, which was the biggest score of the day, I believe, from the women's game. And the one that everyone wanted to pay attention to was the final game of the day, which was against Queensland. And you flew out to you shut them down on defense in the first half, and the offense were playing fantastically. Few questionable referee calls, which we're going to touch on, it felt like a theme for the weekend. But had the Queensland team not got a few of those questionable calls around whether the ball was actually in the end zone or not, and a few flags, the score would have been so more dominant on that first day in that first game against Queensland. So I thought it was really impressive from the whole women's setup, from the New South Wales women's team. Confidence must have been sky high going into day 2.
Yeah, it was, and it was a day where at the end of it, there needed to be sort of a lot of recovery from it, because it's such an emotional, well, not an emotional, it's mental and physical day. So you've got 4 games that you have to play through. It's 20 minutes a half, which
it wasn't cold out there either, was it? It was 29, 30 degrees out there, warm. No shade.
And it's just constant. It's just continuous, because the amount of reps that you have to get in and the amount of downs that you have to get in. So the players had to have a fair bit of recovery and a mental sort of recovery as well.
Yeah.
Because as I said, there's so much thinking and prepping that has to go into each game. From a coaching point of view as well, like it was just a day of reviewing film straight off, because it was being live streamed the whole time. So we were able to watch the previous games, try and get a little bit of scouting before, have conversations with the players before going out, and we were able to adapt and go through the motions during games as well. I have a fantastic coach who I work alongside, Marshy, and he's absolutely incredible. Whenever I sort of describe it, it's the Peter Taylor to my Brian Clough. He very much is my right hand man, and I can't thank him enough with sort of everything over the last few years when I've worked alongside him as well. But yeah, going into day 2, there was a lot of expectation, I think, from ourselves, and there was a few comments made on the commentary of the New South Wales Queensland game, which we took to heart a little bit, I think.
I was really surprised at, like, and this is me from an outsider, like I've got no real affiliation with, obviously I have more of an affiliation to New South Wales, but I feel like I'm not involved as much as you are. There was quite a lot of bias towards the Queensland team on the commentary, and rightly so. They were favourites.
Yeah, 100%.
But anyone that had watched that game on Sunday would have noticed that New South Wales are actually pretty dominant in that game.
Yeah.
And I felt there wasn't enough respect shown to the New South Wales team in that sense. But saying that, I mean, the first game on the Monday, you came out against Tassie, who quite a friendly game, in the fact that Tassie was New South Wales 2's team.
Yeah, but we've trained with them a lot, and that game was very similar to how our sort of training games were going in training and compete sessions. So no, it's fantastic, and great shout out to the Tassie players as well, and coaching staff. They did incredible over the weekend. They're such a great bunch. Some fantastic talent within that team as well.
There is.
So it's brilliant. It was a brilliant weekend to showcase how much sort of flag talent there is in New South Wales.
There is,
which is what we want to do, and like Queensland have been so dominant, and rightly so, over the last sort of few years with flag. We were there to sort of put a stop. Well, I wouldn't say stop, but to change the view.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the final from an unbiased point of view, and from a neutral watching it at home.
Yeah.
So you beat Tassie, like you say, in a fixture. You beat Tassie, and that set up it was a 1 playoff game final against Queensland, and
we went through the group stages unbeaten, which is a great achievement.
Great achievement, and I think, when it comes to the final, like you never really knew what was going to happen, because two very equal teams, in the fact that Queensland have players that have been playing the game for years and years, and some of them are touted as the best players in Australia, and yet throughout the game, and through the game on the Sunday and the game on the Monday and the final, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between the two of those players. The quality of the New South Wales players, some of them as well had only been playing the game for 6 months?
3 months, if that.
3 months, were able to get themselves to a final, dominate in the group stages, and then play on the national stage and really put in a performance in the final. And it was, I think the nerves got the better of New South Wales in the first half of that game. Close game at half time, and then, do you know what, towards the end of the first half and going into the second half, I felt the momentum was shifting, in the fact that Queensland were like, we're in a bit of a hole here.
Right, yeah.
Queensland got the ball back at the start of the start of the second half. They opened up and they scored, which it was like, okay, let's see what New South Wales are made of. What metal have they got in order to come back in this? And I tell you what, before I go on to that, the first touchdown that New South Wales scored, I don't know who it was, but Twinkle Toes over in the corner, spinning like a washing machine going into the end zone, I thought was fantastic. And then there was 2 drives in which New South Wales scored and you went into a lead. And don't get me wrong, there were some questionable referee calls in that as well, in terms of contact, in terms of all that sort of stuff. But the last drive of the game was a very, very interesting one. And it's something I was talking to a very good friend of mine who I was texting before the game, who is involved in flag football. And I said to him, I hope this game isn't decided by a referee's decision. As the game was unfolding, you could tell the referees were calling some controversial things. There was some roughing the passes, which it didn't even look like the quarterback got touched. There was a pass interference in which 2 DBs were going for the ball, and didn't seem like there was any contact whatsoever after. That was flagged, which gave a first down. And then on that final drive of the game, you had them 4th, and they had to get to the halfway line in order to make a first down. Otherwise, if they didn't get to the halfway line, you would have won the national championship. And you had them 4th and 15. It was 4th and long. And they threw the ball deep. And 2 players are running down the sideline. What seemed like minimal interaction between the 2 of them. The Queenslander tripped and went out of bounds. And a flag got thrown for pass interference, which I thought was ridiculous. But it was given. Okay, it was given. Let's see what New South Wales are made of again. So the ball was on the halfway line and they drove down to the goal line, and there was a false start on the play before, which wasn't picked up. And then the final play of the game, with 3 seconds left or even like 0 seconds on the clock, Queensland had the ball and there was a clear false start. It was picked up by the commentators. It was picked up by everyone in the crowd. It was picked up by everyone watching at home, and even comments I've seen on social media, but it wasn't picked up by the referees. And that's one thing that bemuses me about this tournament. You're on a national stage. You're on show to potentially the world, because there's a friendly, am I correct in saying, between America and Australia happening in the future?
Yeah. I'm not too sure what the details are around it, but there's some sort of partnership
taking place.
Yeah, brewing, I believe, yeah.
So I'm sure they've got eyes on this, and there were some horrendous refereeing calls. And although, granted, that wouldn't have finished the game, that penalty, it would have moved Queensland 5 yards back, and that would have been more difficult for them to score, I feel, than what it did. So it ended in heartbreak for New South Wales. Queensland jubilation, like, take nothing away from them. New South Wales had the opportunity to bury them when they did. If they had caught a few passes or made an interception here or there, can't take anything away from any of their players. But it's just so unfortunate that a national championship with all eyes on it has come down to a referee's call. But look, great event, great start to what I feel will be so many athletes now moving into this sport, because I think they were reading out on some of the New South Wales players that have come from basketball, that have come from AFL, that have come from OzTag, that have come from the NRL, like stacked full of talent, this New South Wales team. And I'm hoping that it will only now influence younger kids, boys and girls, to get involved into the sport, build those pathways, and hopefully build towards success at LA in 2028. And fingers crossed, furthermore in Brisbane in 2032. But I can understand how it would be mentally draining for you. I've lost a few national championships in my time in the contact American football game, and they're difficult to recover from. But my biggest bit of advice is just store that one in the memory bank and remind players what it's all about next year, and make sure that they turn up ready to go. And I'm sure there'll be people fired up that want to make amends. So, yeah, anything you want to end on that one?
It's, I suppose it's just really hard to take a loss like that. We regrouped at halftime. We did what we needed to do, in the sense of we stopped them getting, we had two drives back to back where we stopped them from getting past halfway, and we were able to hand the ball over to offense to then go and score.
Yeah.
which was incredible. And yeah, it just...
Those New South Wales players don't have anything to, like, they played the best that they could. One thing that you don't want to happen is leave it in the hands of the referee. And sometimes when you don't take your opportunities and don't take your chances, you run the risk of leaving it in the hands of the referee. And because the standard of officiating in this country is terrible, unfortunately those things happen. But look, I reflect on it, try and put it behind you, dust it off. But there was a lot more sport that happened over the weekend for sure that we can reflect on.
There was, and I did sort of pre-warn you before we started going through this. Like, I might pull a Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and might have to take about 5 minutes just to sort of settle in. But now, like, on a sort of final note, I'm so proud of every single one of those players. They have been amazing to work with from day one. They are an incredible group to coach, to sort of work alongside. They were just so adaptable to everything. Yeah. So open to changes, to communication. It was just such a great campaign to work on, and I just feel so sorry for them. Because you get so emotionally invested in it, and that's why I love coaching. Is when you get so invested in it, you want the best, and it's one of the worst things as well is that you're on that sideline and you can do nothing. There is nothing you can do.
I'll be honest with you as well. I think they're more athletic than you as well, so I don't think on the field you'd be able to do anything.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I am not a flag player, and I don't think I'll ever step on a flag field other than to coach. But no, it's unfortunately it is what it is. They were incredible. Absolutely loved working with them. I think they've given Australia a massive headache with selection. Yeah, there's
some talent there. There's some unbelievable talent in New South Wales, and I suppose if anyone is listening that doesn't know anything about flag football, get involved. Like, it's a great sport that's fast paced, high scoring, tests out your skills, your athletic ability. So take a look on Gridiron Australia website for a local team, or search Flag Football Australia, because it's certainly a sport that's on the rise, and I think there'll be even more talent at the National Championship next year, and hopefully
just keep building.
But we'll move on from that. Tough one to take, but let's move on to Chelsea and Birmingham. How last week you were talking up the hype of Birmingham. Give us the trophy now.
Humbled.
What happened this week?
Woke up Wednesday morning and got humbled by Bolton. Lost 3-1. God, we were dreadful. Saying that, we looked solid for the first 20 minutes and then just disappeared. Don't know what happened.
Every now and then need one of them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's a difficult. The lower leagues in England are so much more difficult to play in sometimes. But got humbled by Bolton, and then went and played Lincoln, and beat them 1-0 at home. So,
there we go, back on track. Give them the trophy now.
11 points clear, I think we are now. So that's quite good. How are Chelsea getting on?
You know what? Not a bad week, not a great week. Beat Copenhagen in the Europa Conference 2-1. Looked to be fairly cruisy. 2-0 up, conceded towards the end. Cucurella scored in that, and then Cucurella scored against Leicester at the weekend as well. Sloppy 1-0 victory. I only watched the highlights. Chelsea don't look on it at all. Cole Palmer's off it, missed a penalty.
Gosh.
Yeah, he's certainly not having a great time at the moment. But the next leg of the Europa Conference Leagues is on Thursday, so hopefully progress in that. And you know what? I don't even know who we've got next weekend. So
that's always good.
There's a poor bit of research there, but that just goes to show it's difficult to keep up with the sport over here, because it's times of the morning which are difficult to watch, and it's just a case of trying to keep up with everything. There's so much sport that goes on in the UK that you want to keep up to date with. It's hard to actually figure out when things are. But Chelsea going all right. ICC Champions Trophy was an interesting one. I didn't pay much attention to this at all, apart from waking up and seeing that our predictions were correct.
India won.
India won. So congratulations to India for winning the ICC Champions trophy. Interesting stat that they travelled a total of 0 kilometres throughout the whole tournament. Yeah. New Zealand, I think, travelled over 7,000 kilometres. Does that have an impact? It was what looked like a tight affair.
India posted 249 for 9.
Yeah.
And then New Zealand were 205 all out.
205 all out. So a fairly decent performance with the ball for India that took the trophy home. But just reflecting on the tournament as a whole, seems like it was geared up for India to win the tournament.
You see a lot of it in the comments about Indian fans going, "Oh, but in the last ODI World Cup, we travelled for everybody. The last ODI World Cup was in India, so of course you're going to showcase your team around the country it's in." But then also every other team was travelling. It wasn't just India. Whereas there's a massive difference where you can just set up base in one area.
Yeah, and Dubai is not exactly the biggest of places, is it?
No, and it's not even in the host's country, so
very valid.
Some controversy around that side of things, but yeah, bit of a not come to nothing.
Yeah, bit of a flounder, end to the tournament. Bit of a disappointing one, but I mean, look, had England or Australia been in the final, I'm sure we probably would have paid a bit more interest.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. So, but on to sports that have twisted and turned in this last weekend. The Guinness Six Nations. 3 fixtures this weekend: England versus Italy, Scotland versus Wales, and France versus Ireland. One score I was not expecting to wake up to on Sunday morning was France dominating Ireland.
No. Never, ever would expect that, to be honest. They just ended up running away with it, didn't they? You look at the sort of the stats behind it. Meters ran pretty similar in that side of things. Territory very similar, but France were just more clinical.
They were
got the, and even without Dupont, just were relentless.
They were, and I watched the highlights of this, and again, because of the monumental weekend of sport that it wasn't able to watch this or really catch up with things. But the 10-minute highlights that I did watch, France were just on it. They just turned up. They wanted it more. And I saw this video on Instagram speaking to Ireland fans, reflecting on the result, and they're like, we needed this because we turned up and thought that we were going to stroll all over them, and we got humbled. It's almost like we thought we had won the championship before the trophy had been given to us. And look, France have lost the best player in the world in Dupont. Like, his ACL has been confirmed as torn, which is highly unfortunate for him. Unfortunate accident. The referee's claiming that it wasn't intentional. It's dangerous, like where he was positioned. I can't remember who it was, has come in to clear him out, and he's fallen onto his knee. It's one of those unfortunate ones, but yeah, now it really opens the door for, well, France are in the driving seat.
They're playing Scotland in France in the next round, and I can't.
To secure it, they need a bonus point victory, which
they just need a victory. They've got a high point. They've got high points difference. I think it goes on points difference before head to head.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Scotland are playing for nothing. And it's always one of those. Well, I suppose
they're not playing for. They are playing for nothing, and they aren't playing for nothing because the nothing is they can't win it. But then the alternate is, do they want another team to win it? In the fact it'll be England or Ireland that will win it. So I don't know whether they actually will want to win this.
Well, and also the players are still on call for the Lions, aren't they? So they're still, this is sort of the last dance.
Very true. Very true.
Before they go back to the clubs and stuff like that. And I don't think there's any internationals before Lions selection, which is in 11th
in May.
It
was announced the 8th of May. It was 8th or 11th of May, around that time, and they're doing it live at some venue, which I think will be really good. But talking of Lions selection, and just I'm kind of like skipping games here, but the England-Italy game, one unfortunate injury that took place was Ollie Lawrence, happened in the 8th minute. I'd watched the highlights of this one again and saw him go to explode in attack, and he just dropped. And from that point, non-contact injury, not good. And I think ruptured Achilles, which is 7 or 9 to 12 months, which is not good.
No.
But you don't like to see it. So losing 2, I know DuPont's got nothing to do with the Lions, but seeing a player of his calibre injured's never good for the game. But feel sorry for Ollie Lawrence because I reckon he was in contention for...
There's some good centres out there, though, at the moment. And I think one of the podcasts do, like, where are they on the play and they're in the boarding area, etc. And I think he was very much on that cusp.
Yeah.
Having like him and Bundyaki in midfield would be
powerhouses.
Would be incredible. But I think Bundyaki's got that 12 shirt and alongside him still a little bit open for debate. And England attacked.
They did, and I was surprised. It's almost like you were Nostradamus, and you said as long as they do this, this, and this, and it was quick ball. It was moving through the hands. It was getting it wide. It was running. It was just everything that they should have been doing against every other team. They decided to do it against Italy, and they needed to because Italy scoring 24 points. And I'll tell you what, the tries that Italy scored weren't nothing to be sniffed at. They were some really fast, quick hands, good movement, cut England apart through the middle with some passes. I thought they were impressive. They're unfortunate to be on the end of a decent England performance. Otherwise, I think they could have caused a
massively. And I've sort of said it from the first day. Like they're not mugs. They're not a team to be taken lightly. Unfortunately, the defence is again something to be questioned sometimes. But you just, again, the attacking side of things, England have jumped up to 583 attacking metres or metres ran in that. Still missed a fair few tackles. So that's sort of a completion rate that needs to change. Still missed 22 tackles out of and made 97. So it's not the greatest. But have to give shout out to number 10 Finn Smith again. Joint top,
hits everything. He tackles anything.
There's part of me that's like, I wonder if he's
an outside chance,
very outside squad, as Haskell describes it, bin juice player.
Yeah.
On that plane, it depends on how many fly halves I want to take.
Yeah.
Because you'd expect Marcus Smith to be on the plane as a utility who can play 10. You've got Finn Russell, who you'd expect. You've got Prendergast at Ireland, who I think is going to be the Lions starting 10.
Yeah.
It's where does he
got potentially Owen Farrell?
You've got I forgot you can actually pick players outside of there.
I think he's been in a bit of a situation over in France. So I'm not sure whether he's played as much as he thought he was going to. From all reports I've heard, I don't follow French rugby, but I don't think you need him. Nah,
as much as the previous Lions tours. Like I heard a rogue shout for Courtney Laws going, which was a bit of a rogue one. I just checking where he's playing at the moment. I can't think off the top of my head.
Just because I think we should move on to the NRL soon. I'm going to finish up with the Scotland-Wales game.
He's over in France as well.
Yeah, he's over in France. Now, interesting ruling in the... I don't know whether you saw it in the Scotland-Wales game. Mm-hmm. That I can't remember who it was that broke away, but scored a fantastic try. Wales scored a fantastic try to come back and be in a position where they could have potentially gone on to win.
Yep.
And it got called back for hurdling.
You can't...
Yeah, which I find a really interesting one because he didn't hurdle over the top of the tackle. He hurdled to avoid the tackle. And I understand it's player safety, and if you get clipped, you can potentially land on your head. But I actually think Wales would have gone on to win the game had that try have stood. But Scotland ended up coming away with a win. I think, well, in the fact that Wales are going to get the wooden spoon, I'm pretty sure, unless they beat England next week, which could happen. So disappointing campaign for Wales. Not sure many of them are going to be on the plane over to Australia. But Scotland, lucky to get away with one.
Yeah, I did mention about Wales coming out, and this is the banana skin for England as well. Like if they have a sniff of any sort of Six Nations, you're playing Wales in Wales, and
England need to come out like they did against Italy.
Just attack.
Attack, and I think we'll be all right.
Keep that attack going. But I think it's going to be a France win. I think they'll take it.
So France. So I think that all the permutations are: if France win with a bonus point, they win it. If they win, they pretty much guaranteed it because their points difference. If they lose, then it's between England and Ireland, and England are in the front seat. Ireland have going to play Italy. You'd expect them to get a bonus point.
Yeah.
So England are playing Wales and need a bonus point to be with any contention. But look, keep an eye with what goes on. Let's see what happens next week. Yep. I think we'll be sitting here talking about France lifting the trophy. But there was a shock this week, so you never know what's going to happen next week.
Also, quite happy there's not a Grand Slam. It does always. It's not always great when one team just dominates it. It's good to have a mix of competition in there and people being able to fight and different results, and even Italy scoring points and you're not sure where they're going to be. So I do like how the momentum is starting to shift into a more competitive Six Nations than just one team dominating.
I agree. I certainly agree. And you never know what's going to happen next year. I think Wales have got a lot of soul searching to do in terms of becoming a better squad. Hopefully Scotland will improve, and I think it could even be tighter next year. Let's just see how it goes, and that will be leading into the build up towards a World Cup. So two Six Nations till the World Cup, which will be interesting. That's over here, so we'll be looking to get travelling around the country for that one. But on to the NRL. It was back. It was back at Brooky. It was fantastic. I loved it. Saturday night under lights.
It was brilliant.
We're going to go through each game, recap each game briefly, just on what we saw, our own kind of amateur British opinions, even though we love the sport and we're quite invested in it. We're going to give our opinions of what we saw and kind of, then see where we're going to go for round 2 tips. So let's start with the massacre at the Allianz on Thursday night. The Sydney Roosters against the Brisbane Broncos.
First of all, I want to say how horrendous that pitch is at Allianz. It was disappearing.
I think there was complaints to the council again because of how bad it was.
I just don't know. For a brand new, I suppose Wembley had similar issues when that was first built.
Not for this long, though.
It's mad. But taking that apart, that did not play into the absolute domination of the Broncos.
They looked scary.
They looked so good. They looked like a mid-season team already with round 1. Salen Cobbo, what an animal out on the wing. I know I use that phrase a lot, but he was just trucking people for fun.
140 odd meters, I think he ran for as well. Which the guy's an animal. Like
he's so good.
I'll tell you another animal who did unbelievably. His name is Payne Haas. I am so glad the geezer wears a blue jersey when it comes to Origin. Yeah. He was a monster. No one was stopping him. And one of the things I heard the Levels podcast talk about earlier was how Madge knows how to manage him. Whereas last year, he was kind of used for as long as he could go, given a 5-minute rest, and then come on for the last 5 minutes. It seems like Michael Maguire has managed his minutes. He played like 40 minutes, took him off for 20 minutes, and then came on full tank again. And the guy was on. Like, he was switched on and he was running over everyone. But the Broncos ran away. They scored 50, put a 50 burger on the Roosters. And one thing I don't like seeing is injuries to players. And you mentioned that he was one of the guys that you like for the Roosters. Victor Radley took some friendly fire and was out cold. And that's like his 6th concussion in 5-6 years.
It gets to a point where it's dangerous. Like Ponga's on a tight line with that.
I think they've just got to manage. The Roosters have just got to manage what they do, because his brain could turn to mush. Like, you never know the
long-term effects. You never know. And he may want to put a lid on. He might start playing in a scrum hat, just as a little bit of precaution.
I don't know whether you remember the hit, but it was Tedesco's shoulder who's a stocky guy going through his chin.
Small, is he?
He wasn't getting up. But we both tipped the Broncos in that, so we both managed to walk away with the point from that one, which was good. But the next one, we had divided opinions. Tigers against Knights.
I don't know, actually. I quite enjoyed parts of it. You've got a very brutal opinion of this game, which you can dive into in a minute. I think I'm sitting at more of a. It was really nice to see the Tigers sort of start playing well. Jerome Loy is a fantastic talent.
I tell you, May.
Terrell May.
Terrell May was fantastic. And how much the Roosters could have done with him not leaving. He was so good. And he was the shining light for me for the Tigers. But I still think they're just... they are going to improve. Like, I will say that I predicted them to finish second bottom. I'm not too sure after the first round whether they're going to finish second bottom or mid-table. But I just didn't think they missed 50-odd tackles or something like that in the game. The Knights were full of a lot of mistakes. Bradman Best tried to do things that he probably shouldn't have. The Knights could have been more clinical. Quite boring game, quite tight game. Not one for the ages, but look, the Knights came away with the victory. Scrappy win. But Kalen Ponga was the difference maker for them. There was one time when he was dancing around in the try area and managed to get the ball out, and that changed the game. Like, his ability is just another level. And the Knights have just confirmed as well, like I said last week, that Dylan Brown had signed a contract with the Eels. How wrong could I have been? He's just today confirmed that he's signing a $13 million contract over 10 years with the Knights. Now, what's interesting about that is the NRL going down the path of Chelsea in the Premier League, like enticing players in, giving them large amounts of money spread across a period of time? Because let's look at Mykhailo Mudryk, for example, for Chelsea. For those that don't know, Chelsea bought a Ukrainian midfielder for 112 million and paying him a fortune on an 8-year contract. He's terrible, but he's locked into that contract now, getting paid a fortune. The same could happen with Dylan Brown. What if he snaps his Achilles? What if he breaks his leg? What if he is not as good as they expected? He's locked into a 10-year deal and he's guaranteed 13 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Which I suppose is how you entice the players into long-term contracts. And he's also very much got an upper hand as well. So they might at one point want to or need to offload him off the salary cap, and there's no need for him to go anywhere.
And who's going to end up paying the remaining of the 1.3 for him to get? But I mean, look, we'll talk about the Storm Mills in a minute. I think he walked out of Amy Park, got on a plane straight to Newcastle and went, sign the contract now, because we'll talk about how that went soon. But you predicted the Tigers, I tipped the Knights.
Yeah.
I took the point in that one, and it was the only one that cost you the perfect tipping week. So Rabbitohs Dolphins, obviously this one got changed. This was a change of venue due to Cyclone Alfred, which is now basically a tropical low, but fear-mongering, I feel. Don't get me wrong, still devastating what happened.
Yeah, it's not been good what's happened up there. Some
serious amount of rain and wind that was pretty destructive. But the Rabbitohs against the Dolphins. Now, I went with the Dolphins because I thought they would still be able to do it, but 5 or so players pulled out. I'm not sure what impact they would have had, but Wayne Bennett just did what Wayne Bennett does and managed.
Just got a rabbits in. And standout performance, probably Jai Gray with 280 run meters.
Most run meters of the week,
just doesn't stop. He's like the Duracell bunny. Like he's literally everywhere.
You called him out in the preseason against when they played Manly that he looked impressive, and look, like you say, he just keeps going and going and going, pumping the feet.
And for a small guy to be playing fullback as well, like he can do well in the air as well. So he's not just a one-dimensional fullback. Like he's very good. And yeah, I'm a big fan of. I enjoyed watching Jamie Humphries.
700 odd kicking meters he got.
Yeah, like the thing is, I don't know whether he was just a little too old in the sense to get a reset for Manly, because obviously with DCE going at half at some point, maybe this season, next season, he wants to finish at the Dolphins. I think so. I think that'll be his swan song. I don't know whether they're wanting a proper project to feed him for a prolonged period
Joey
of time.
Walsh, the 18-year-old, apparently is the one that they're trying to nurture. So I know what you mean, but I feel we've let one go.
We have. I 100% agree, but I think it was just a little too late for him. Yeah, I think, unfortunately.
He's a unit as well.
He's very good. I love his kicking action as well.
I reckon he's got some of the best looking quads in the NRL. Like, I do have massive quad envy.
You can snap that and put that on the Instagram reels. You get some likes.
For sure, yeah.
And I know I messaged you during the week about it, but I really like his kicking action at goal. I just feel like it's a very efficient just action which will get a lot of success.
Yeah.
Which is it's very straight now how you would normally see a kicker in rugby union, very behind the ball and direct. But yeah, very, very good sort of game. I think just hopping back to Jai Gray, 116 post-contact meters as well. Like
impressive.
That's again for the way he is fantastic.
I think the Dolphins will be all right. Like there's nothing from that performance that made me worry that they were going to be. I think they'll win some close games, lose some close games. It's just how, I suppose, their transition from Wayne Bennett to Wolf, just seeing how they go.
And it does mess you around having to move venue at the last minute. Like it's not great. You're then having to travel, sleep in a hotel, which we all know when you sleep in a hotel, you don't get the best night's sleep. You're a little all over the place, and then trying to perform while worrying about family back home. Like there is a good argument that it should have probably been just postponed and reworked into the schedule. But now, I think Rabbitohs are going to start snowballing, and then Dolphins are just going to be like sound this year.
It's only Latrell Mitchell coming back for the Rabbitohs though, so it'd be interesting to see how they go. And I can't remember who it was. I've forgotten the name of the guy, but he snapped his collarbone, so they've lost another person through injury. So
put him in the centres.
We'll see who they got this week. They've got the Dragons. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup. We'll talk about the Dragons next because they came up against the Bulldogs. And
that is correct. Classy first 60 minutes, I say, for the Bulldogs. Looked very in control of the game. And then Dragons started coming back, and it was one of those moments.
I think there was a moment where Valentine Holmes, if he had slotted the conversion for their last try, 4 minutes to go, could have stood a chance of getting back into it. But Bulldogs come away with the win. Didn't get to watch as much of this one because I was walking down to Four Pines Park, a.k.a. Brooky Oval, a.k.a. the Fortress.
Yep.
AKA guaranteed 2 points every time we play there. We'll get onto that in a sec. But yeah, didn't get to watch too much of the Dragons Bulldogs, but got to see the Bulldogs pull out to a lead. Yeah. Stephen Crichton cited for a knee to the head for the Dragons' first try.
He's not got the suspension or anything, has he?
It's a fine, but I don't think he intended it. I think he was genuinely trying to try save, and his thigh hit his head.
Yeah, it's a difficult one where you've got to fully commit to it. There's no second guessing because that's how you get injured and things like that. But no, he ended up coming off at some point as well, didn't he?
Cramp. Not cramp, like something with his calf, wasn't it?
Yeah, he came off in the 70th minute. So that's a little bit of a worry, I suppose, for the Dogs. But no, other than that,
they look solid. The Dogs look solid.
There was a few Burton bombs as well out there, which is always quite cool to see.
Not sure I feel about his new look. I don't know if you looked at his beard. Looks a bit rough and unkept under the scrum cap. I might have to go for that look later in the year with the scrum cap on, touring with the Lions. We'll see.
Don't think they're really missing Adokar. I think
they're solid. They'll be all right.
They'll be a solid team again this year.
But on to the next game, Sea Eagles against the Cowboys. When we get in our Premiership tattoos, when we get in them,
start up the promotion bus. Well,
it's happening. Bus. It's happening. Do you know what? I said last week I didn't know how this one was going to go, and within the first 10 minutes, I couldn't believe how explosive we were.
I was in awe. Like, I was in shock.
It was so good.
It was just the pace of everything was just incredible.
What I loved, opening kickoff, Takiaho takes the first. It might have even been Paseka, actually. I can't remember. But one of them takes the first carry off the back fence, runs into contact, stopped, but then quick ball, Jake runs into contact, bang, and he's going forward. Like, no pass. It was just constant aggression from our forwards, leaning into contact, trying to break through lines. And then that just sets it up for Brooksy to get the ball in his hand, DCE to get the ball in his hand, flick it out wide, and then for that first try, get it to Ola Kawatu to just
steamroll,
run people over. And Tom Dearden ain't no.
He's not a mug when it comes to defence.
And he sat him down so many times in the game. It was unbelievable. And the poor guy got put on his ass later on in the game. And then that led to, I think, when Saab broke down the wing, kicks it through to Garrick, who goes over. Do you know what? There's so many tries, I can't even remember which one it was. But it was probably the most complete performance I've seen since I've been following Manly.
Yeah, it's to an like Travojevic and Hopewadi look so calm under every high ball.
Yeah.
It's brilliant to see, and Hopewadi's chase. I think he tipped it to who did he do?
Ben Travojevic
scored from it. It is incredible, and that's the talent you've got through him. The only shaky part of it was Mr. Saab. Dropped, I think, very regulation.
High ball. Defensive high ball.
But then made up for it with an interception very quickly after, which as I said probably last week, I had reservations around Saab.
He looks like a different player. It might be the haircut, I don't know. It might be the haircut that he's now got, or hairstyle, but he might, and maybe bulked up a bit. I'm not sure, but he looks like a different player.
He looks confident.
Yeah,
he looks confident within his body, and he looks confident that his body's working.
Yeah,
there's parts of last season where you would see him like slightly pull up.
Yeah,
and not feel 100% confident in what he was doing, and he was sort of pulling out of contact, and when he was he
won't commit in full, like in that second carry out of yardage when he was trying to come up with like the forward, take it in here, take the second one. He wouldn't be pumping and driving like I felt like he was. He wanted to move people as well.
And and at the weekend he was like he had the most line breaks with sort of 5 for Manly.
How good was Turbo's tip on as well?
He's just fantastic because he's everywhere, and this is why he's such a good fullback. He's there every run. Every line break, he's there at first sort of pass. Every attacking play, he's an additional...
He's there or thereabouts.
He's an additional player. He doesn't just favour one side. It's an additional player in every attack. It's like having a second centre in every attack.
I tell you what, can I just give a shout out to one person that's great support running, come off the bench, and I love the guy, Ethan Bullymore.
Ethan Bullymore, man, the energy.
What energy he brings off the bench, and Turbo breaks through, and he's just there by his shoulder. Now his gas run out, I reckon, with the last 5 meters to go, and he just made it over.
Trickled over the line.
He done it against the Tigers in pre-season, and he done it again in round 1 against the Cowboys.
I think with the depth in sort of we have on the bench a prop.
Yeah,
he's going to make such an impact coming off the bench.
I mean, we'll look at round 2 in a bit, but Takiaho got a bone bruise on his knee and is out injured for 1 week.
Which is a shame.
Alawai comes back in, but then even 10 weeks through the season, we got old big Matty Lodge to potentially come in, and we've got to mention last week,
friend of the podcast,
friend of the pod, won his fight out at the event that was put on. So congrats to Matty Lodge for winning that. But we've got him to come back. We've got Nathan. We got Backfence Brownie. There is so much support in that forward pack, and to have Toff Sipley on the bench to come off the bench.
His try was again. You got to love it. I'm not going to stop at all. I'm going to reach this line. Big shout out to Jazz Tavanga as well. He's a very, very good hooker.
He is.
Can get the ball moving, not afraid at speed.
He's aggressive. He's got that dog in him as well.
It's that 80s style player.
I love the headband, the tape for it from the start.
Yeah, held together by electrical tape. It's fantastic, and he's so versatile as well.
Yeah.
So you got Jake Simkin, who's currently coming on to replace him after the first 20. And then Simpkin can then play the rest, the 60, and Jazz then can come on and help in the forwards. And again, it's that depth, it's that versatility, as I said, that just helps the team. And having that sort of aggression coming on is incredible.
I think we look fantastic, and there's a number of teams this year in the first week have looked very, very good. I think the Panthers last week from Vegas just continue where they left off. The Sharks look decent. The Broncos look very good. And the game we'll talk about next, the Storm versus Eels. Eels look very poor, but the Storm look very good. What a night it was at Brooky Park.
It was so good. Bouncing. The hill was full.
17,500 were there.
Great halftime performance by the...
I can't remember, the Doppelgangers or something like that.
Was it the bloated bellies or
pot bellies?
Pot bellies.
That
was
bellies.
it.
Yeah. Fireworks
going off. I think a few tickers skipped a beat with. I think mine included on that. That was quite a bit of a shock to the system.
But loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Only issue was the amount of players that were pulling up with cramp.
It's the first game of the season.
I know, but it's a bit of a right. Okay, this is first game of the season. You're supposed to have had a pre-season. It's
short turnaround as well. We're playing on Friday, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so that's
be an interesting one to watch out for.
That's the issue with, I think, our fast starts.
Yeah,
is it could go into.
I mean, there was a point brought up today as well. One of the podcasts I was listening to. After 65 minutes, Manly kind of switched off. But against a better team, would they have done that? Possibly not.
And that's what I worry about. Is if that was a closer game, would Manly have done what they normally do and end up conceding and it going really close?
Pressurised, yeah. We'll see because we'll talk about the round 2 fixtures in a bit. We've got a few tough fixtures coming up in the next couple of weeks that will really test our mettle and see where we're at. But a fantastic start to the season. 2 points on the board. It's coming home. Let's have it. We're ready. On to the final game of the weekend, Storm versus Eels. There's not much we've got to say about this. Storm, we were coming back from the Sunday of the flag football tournament.
I had it on the phone.
And it was notification after notification after notification of the Storm just battering the Eels.
Taylor watching his multi just
come in eventually.
Try by try. Again, Storm just look incredible.
They do. They look good. They've got strength in depth as well. Yep. They picked up from where they left off last year. All right, they lost in the final, but they're a group of players that no one's left. They've brought in strength in their pack. They haven't lost any injuries. If everyone keeps it fit and healthy, I think they're very good. And it's like I said, it's so unfortunate for Manly that there's so many other good teams, but you don't want to win a competition when it's easy.
Nah.
And to be the best, you've got to beat the best, standard saying. But I think this year it's already set up for a great competition. The Eels, they are in dire straits. Like Lomax, there was no creativity.
No.
They just didn't look at the races at all. They have the Tigers this week, and then they have some tough fixtures after that. But even that, if they don't get a win against the Tigers there, could be looking at a Parramatta wooden spoon. I'm not feeling hopeful for them. But so tips-wise, I ended up, I think, predicting 5 out of the 8 fixtures total over the weekend, and you went with a monstrous 7 out of 8. So good start to the tips, good start for Manly, good start to the competition. But let's look ahead to this week.
Yeah,
this week coming up. So Thursday night, Knights versus Dolphins. This one's in Newcastle.
That's it's been a lot of travel for the Dolphins to start and been all over the place.
I mean, I don't know. Did they stay? No, they wouldn't have stayed down here. So they would have flown back straight away, come back.
Could have gone up to they wouldn't have wanted to do that.
Who you got in this one?
I think if Knights settled down, even though I was very one-sided with the Tigers, I did see a fair bit of creativity in there. So I think I'm just gonna tip the Knights in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with the Knights in this one. I think if they manage to tidy things up, if Bradman Best isn't as loose as he was, if Kalen Pongers does what he does, I think they've got enough to beat the Dolphins. So both tipping the Knights on that one. And then Friday, Jazz Tavanga going back to his hometown.
The Waz.
Up the Waz. Warriors Seagulls, 6 p.m. Friday night. Now, annoyingly for me, my son's got a cricket, the cricket thing that he does on Friday night, the taster between 5 and 6. I might have to pull him out of that early just so I can get back and watch this one. But Warriors weren't too good in Vegas. They looked all over the place. I'm obviously going to tip a Manly win.
Yeah.
But one change from the Manly lineup: Takiaho out, Aluaye in, same 13 after that. I think Corey Waddell comes in on the bench.
Kalua?
Kalua's, he's fit. So there was concerns he had ice on his knee, but you never know. Things might change between now and Friday. But Tommy Talau's in the reserves, which is good.
That's massive.
Said he's fit and ready to go. So it's just a case of getting him back. We've got so much competition. I just realised. Hang on, let's go back to the Knights and Dolphins. You have to tip a points margin. What do you reckon?
I'll go by. I think it'll be close. I'm going to go by 8.
I'm going to go by 6. Knights by 6. So you've gone 8. I've gone by 6. Warriors, Seagulls. We don't have to tip a points margin by that,
No.
but both gone Seagulls for that one. Do you know what? Every week, this is going to sound bad, but it's a highlight of my week. Looking forward to watching the Seagulls, especially after Saturday. So excited about what this season could hold. But then on to what could be another bloodbath.
Gosh, Panthers, Roosters.
Panthers
At Combank.
At Combank.
At Combank, so it's not at the... it's not out in Penrith.
How much? We're both going for the Panthers, right?
I don't know. I'm joking. No, I'm not that. Like,
to put a bit of spice on it, then
looks so good.
How much? How much are they winning by?
Oh, so who've Roosters lost? So
Radley.
I've lost Radley.
The problem with the Roosters, I thought, and this is what I messaged you, for the first 10, 15 minutes of that game against the Broncos, they were actually all right. They went up. Dom Young scored the first try.
He's such a good player.
And they looked all right. It was when their interchange bench came on. When their bench came on, they didn't have the experience. They lost Radley through the middle. I think it fell apart then. So the fact that they've lost Radley, they've lost arguably their best defender. All right, they've got Angus Crichton, who's an absolute dog as well. But in terms of someone that also hits everything that moves, Victor Radley is someone you want there. They've lost him through concussion.
They've not got a lot of experience.
I honestly think this could be worse than the Broncos game. Because this is Panthers' first run out on Australian soil.
Yeah.
They're going to want to put on a show. Cleary's back. I'm not sure whether Toto's in. I haven't checked their team list, but I think this could be 50 plus again on the Roosters.
Yeah, I think this could be they don't have a lot of experience in this team list coming off the bench. They've got Lindsay Collins, who lost half of his cheek.
His cheek was about an inch wide. So
absolute warrior of a player. Him and Liam Martin, I think are very, very similar in that sense. Saying that, they do have a bit of experience on the bench. Sorry, I think I might have jumped the gun a little bit there. But I think, it's going to be an absolute feast for Penrith. Dylan Edwards against Tedesco, little bit of a Blues audition here.
Yeah.
Can't see anyone being Edwards though. But if they play the way they did against up against the Warriors, was the Warriors? No, it wasn't. It was
Panthers.
Yeah, Sharks.
They played Sharks. If they play anywhere near that,
it's going to be it's going to be an absolute massacre. So yes, I am going to go for the Panthers.
So on to Saturday, we got the Dragons against the Rabbitohs. I think this one's going to be quite a tight contest. I wasn't too impressed with the Dragons. Yeah, all right, they brought it back and it was close against the Bulldogs, but I think it was a case of the Bulldogs pulling their foot off the gas. I think, I don't know, the Rabbitohs, I don't think they've got anyone coming back. I think they've lost another, I can't remember who it was again, through snapping his collarbone for the 3rd time in his career. Apparently, he's only young. But I think the Dragons are actually going to get this done. I think the Dragons are going to win a tight one in this one.
Okay.
And they got enough. I think, the Dragons are going to get it done. I reckon they'll beat the Rabbitohs.
It's down in the Gong as well. They do all right down in the Gong.
It's called Wynn Stadium or something like that. Great backdrop.
Weird stand, like half of it's like that.
It just stops.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They're both. They did well against a very good Dogs team, where Rabbitohs just looked out against I think I'm going to go Dragons as well.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing what Jamie Humphries can do.
I agree, and Jai Gray as well. Just seeing them two.
Like I said, pick of Jai Gray through pre-season. It'd be really interesting to see what they can do. So yeah, but I think the Dragons may just have enough. Clint Gutherson's looking all right down at fullback as well, and he's starting to. And they've also got Val Holmes in the centres. Man, it's starting to creep up to a decent team.
Yeah,
up down in St George. So I'm going to go Dragons.
And then next fixture on the Saturday is another tough one for the Cowboys. They're playing the Sharks. They're at home this time, so they're
up in North.
They're up in North Queensland in Townsville. They're playing against the Cronulla Sharks, who would have had 2 weeks off, and they'll want to get 2 points on the board after losing a tight one to Panthers. I think they dominate them. I think this is an easy win for the Sharks.
Yeah. I just didn't see anything in the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They were beaten early, and they looked beaten as well.
I don't know how they turn this one around. Like, hopefully we see a different Cowboys.
Yeah.
But it's short turnaround.
I was listening to something about how Manly's tactic attacking Dridden on that their left edge.
Yeah, just Olaquatu.
Just cut him out of the game, and it was because he just wasn't anywhere near his attacking best as well. So if Sharks go for something similar again,
but they got Adam Fanua-Blake. He's just going to be running up the middle,
isn't it? Yeah,
he got 140 odd meters rushing against the Panthers.
As I said last week for Manly, let the boys run it straight and then they get the ball out to the backs.
And Adam Fanua-Blake runs it straight.
He runs it very straight.
Yeah, and then the final game on Saturday night, Raiders against the Broncos. Now Raiders did all right in Vegas. They did all right.
They did all right in Vegas,
but they're coming up against the Broncos. This will be a test of their mettle. They've lost Tarpanay and Xavier Savage through suspension. Tarpanay's out for 2 games. Savage is out for 1, which means Tarpanay misses the Manly game. Savage will be back, but I can't. Again, if the Broncos come out like they did against the Roosters, there ain't much stopping them. No. The Raiders ain't got much to be stopping them. That Corey Horsburgh can try as much as he wants. He can try as many offloads as he wants, but he's not going to be stopping.
Clattered by Payne Haas.
Payne Haas getting filled in. Like, you can twist as much as you want, but when he's snapping your rib cage,
yeah, I like their pack as well. Broncos pack. You've got again a bit of one that we didn't mention in Patrick Carrigan in the last game, ran for 200. I think I might have mentioned it. Ran for 240.
And he's moved from lock to prop as well. 245. That's big game.
He's an incredible player, and
he's a Queensland stalwart, as well. He's there. Like, I reckon he's one of the, if not the first name on the team sheet. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So yeah, I think I agree with you. Broncos come out firing, they'll be.
And then I look at this next fixture on Sunday and I laugh. It's Spoon Bowl all over again. And I think in my predictions, swap the Raiders for the Eels. I think it could be Spoon Bowl potentially again this year. We've got Eels versus Tigers. I'm going to have to tip the Tigers for a win in this.
I think I'm just going to stick with ticking the Tigers all season. I think it may be the one that ruins my perfect tipping week a couple of times, but yeah, I'm going to go Tigers.
With how poor the Eels were, and they were coming up against the Storm, who are a very, very, very good outfit. But I think the Tigers will learn from their errors against the Knights. And I think they'll come out wanting to get those 2 points on the board to show, look, we are not the same team that we were last year. And we can win these tight games. And I think they're going to stick a performance on them. Interestingly, is that 2 games at Combank Stadium then over the weekend? Because the Panthers are playing on the Friday and the Eels are down at home on the Sunday.
Check. It is Combank.
Yeah,
and it's a decent stadium, Combank.
It's a nice stadium. Like, we went there last year.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the game because Manly rushed up 20 points and then in the first 10 minutes or whatever it was and lost.
Don't want to talk about it.
But real nice stadium, real good venue, real nice walk along the river to get to.
It was a very pleasant Sunday afternoon until
we lost
until the actual rugby.
Yeah, so we're both going for the Tigers in that one. Let's go the Tigers. And then the final game of the weekend is the Bulldogs against Titans. Now, I read yesterday where the ex-tropical cyclone Alfred has forced the Gold Coast Titans down to Sydney early. They flew down yesterday because their training facilities are under, the water was up to the crossbar of the goalposts.
Jesus.
That's how much water had dropped around where they're training. And they couldn't train whatsoever, so they've flown down to Sydney a few days early and are training down here. So a serious amount of rain has dropped up there. A lot of people have been affected by it, but Titans have made the decision to come down, and unfortunately the rain is easing up, so there's no concerns like there was last week around safety. Who you got in this one? It's the first hit out for the Titans. Big Tino's back for his first hit up since his ACL reconstruction. I think the Titans are going to potentially cause some problems. This, I think, is going to be the tightest game of the weekend, but I think the Bulldogs are going to take it.
That's an interesting take. I've got the Titans not doing very well this year, so yeah, I'm going Bulldogs as well. I don't.
You base that prediction, the Titans not doing very well, off of how they performed in preseason, and there's a few teams that perform well in preseason, like the Cowboys that got turned over week one.
I said to you as soon as you messaged me about the Cowboys in preseason, I was like, I didn't really see anything. But I'm basing it off a little bit of that and just how they've started David Fafita on the bench, which is quite an interesting call. But just how attacking Bulldogs can be. Like they dominated Dragons for a decent 15-20 minute period where the Dragons just couldn't respond. And I think again they've learned from last week and to shut out games. I think the Dogs, it's at Belmore as well. So
all right, I am expecting big. Like the Titans, I feel have strengthened well enough in Regan Campbell-Gillard as well in their pack. That's why I think this one's going to be a bit tighter than. I think it's going to be a good fixture. I think it's going to be a close one.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think the Bulldogs have got too much. The fact to sit Belmore, the old Belmore Barmy Army are going to be.
It's going to be back in
behind the boys
at 6:15 on a Sunday.
Oof. A few sore heads on Monday for sure.
And there's going to be a few sick calls, especially if the Bulldogs win big.
Hopefully, no pies thrown at Bulldogs fans this week. But anyway, so I'm going Bulldogs in that one. You're going Bulldogs in that one.
Yep.
Brilliant. Well, I think another great weekend of the NRL coming up. Looking forward to seeing how the Sea Eagles are on Friday. And then we've got the final round of the Six Nations coming up. And I think that's the end of like the international sports. Can you think of anything else that's coming up before the British and Irish Lions come over to Australia?
No.
That's it.
My mind's gone now. I'm
absolutely frazzled.
Checked out. I'm checked out big time at the moment, as explained previously. But no, looking forward to it. Looking forward to Friday night. Looking forward to Friday night, seeing what the Sea Eagles have got and what are the other teams and who can get the wins.
Brilliant. Well, make sure you keep an eye on the socials. We'll post up regular content to keep updated with predictions. But thank you for tuning in to this one, and we'll catch you in the next one.
It's been a pleasure.